Rodriguez, you're running in Florida House District 83. Tell me a little bit about yourself and then tell me why you're actually running in this race.
Well, I grew up in District 83, and my family, my friends, my wife's family all live in the district. And I thought, why don't I get into politics? Throughout my college career, I was focused on our Constitution, along with my degree in biology, and I realized that our federal government had ballooned to a size that was beyond the limitations prescribed by the founders. And I asked myself the question, what can I do effectively to limit that and to change the direction? And running for a state house seat, I believe, is the most effective way, based on Article 1, Section 8 of our Constitution, Section 10 of the Constitution, and the 10th Amendment. And I'm excited to be participating at a time when states are taking back some of that control.
So you're for state control over like pretty much anything as far as laws and whatnot, because the government, like you're right, the government is taking a lot of control or actually overstepping. So you're completely for the State Right Amendment.
Absolutely. The State Right Amendment is more of a resolution, and we have to put laws in place that restrict what the federal government's doing on a larger scale. You know, one of the three areas that the government says it can take control of are based on the three clauses of Article 1, Section 8. It says there's a general welfare clause. Well, when I studied the Constitution, there's a difference between general welfare and specific welfare. Any laws that are passed by the federal government usually are for one specific group and not for the general population. If you consider things like Social Security, that's for an older population. Or if you consider things where the federal government's intruding in health care already, Medicare, Medicaid, those are for specific populations, not the general welfare. And so I think that in order for us to bring back a fiscal conservative federal government, we have to do a lot of work at the state level to be able to make that happen.
Now, talk to me about the economy. Obviously, we have a terrible economy. This administration has done nothing but make it worse. If you're elected in District 83, what kind of changes would you help affect in the district once in the legislature?
There's a lot of things that I want to do. I think the most effective things I could do is there are a lot of regulations on small businesses for starting up and for continuing business, and my hope is to remove a lot of those regulations that are at the State House so that businesses within the state of Florida can begin to hire new people, pay less in taxes. There's even a recommendation by a current legislator that they're considering eliminating the business taxes at the state level, which I think would be really valuable to allow businesses to level off and deal with our economic job crisis. But at the same time, I think it's also important to look at the housing area, and some of the things that I want to do there are a little bit more complex, so I don't know that I'll get there. But as far as getting businesses started again and getting the job issue taken care of, we've lost 1 million jobs in Florida, and I think that that's where we need to start, is by helping small businesses grow effectively.
Now, another touchy subject, obviously you're Hispanic, I'm Hispanic. Big issue is going to be coming up, it's already starting to, the illegal immigration issue. Where do you stand on amnesty for illegal immigrants? Do you support policy of not supporting any form of blanket amnesty?
I will not support any form of blanket amnesty. My family came over legally. My grandfather joined the U.S. military, and my father went to school in the state of Florida, grew up here, and all of my family came over legally. My grandmother was born in Cuba, my father was born in Panama, but because of my grandfather serving the U.S. military, they were legal aliens and eventually became citizens, which is something I value very much. So I don't believe that amnesty is a solution at all. I think number one, what needs to happen is we need to remove the welfare gifts that we give out to the entitlements to illegal aliens. And the two areas, obviously the budget of Florida is divided up really in three ways: healthcare, education, and everything else. And so if we eliminate the entitlements for illegals in healthcare, and we eliminate the entitlements for illegals in education, then we have a real solution. But I know that a lot of the current legislation continues to fund those things and continues to allow illegals to benefit at our expense. So my hope is to really make some changes there.
So the E-Verify, a lot of people are jumping on board with the E-Verify. Marco Rubio's on board with E-Verify. Do you support E-Verify both publicly and privately?
I think that's a really good question, and I want to make a distinction between, I'm opposed to federal control over many areas, but Article 1, Section 8 specifically prescribes the federal government to regulate immigration and naturalization. And so because that's their responsibility, it's very, it may cause confusion throughout the states if each state implemented something like that away from the federal government. It would cause migrations to happen out of our state into other states. So I think the prescription for that has to come from the federal government, but I'll do everything in my power to help facilitate that on the E-Verify for the state of Florida. But I think the federal government's responsibility, that's one of the few areas that I think the federal government is responsible for, is to limit illegal immigration into the United States.
It is a federal issue, but a lot of people are trying to make it a state issue, which I agree. I think that, you know, case in point, Sheriff Arpaio in Arizona, he took it upon himself to make it a state issue, enforce the laws. My question to you is this: would you support, if the laws were on the books in the state of Florida, would you support enforcing these laws, or would you help propose laws if they weren't?
I would help.
Or introduce bills, I'm sorry.
I think that because I'm very focused on our Constitution, I think it's the federal government's role to limit immigration. What I would do is I would take away the entitlements, because I'm responsible for the Constitution and the entitlement program, and the federal government is funding education for illegals right now. So they're also funding healthcare for illegals currently. And so my role as a state official would be to not accept those dollars from the federal government that would fund for illegal aliens, and remove the benefits that are there. The E-Verify and the actions of the federal government need to come from them on immigration. If the state houses start to do that, then you'll have a division throughout states, and you won't have a uniform law of naturalization in the United States prescribed by Article 1, Section 8.